we're going to talk about the infinite banking concept, but more specifically, we're going to talk about how Joey and his partners have built this awesome empire of something you all love, something you all need to know more about, called passive income.
Really what was happening is I was siphoning off opportunity dollars every single paycheck. If you're 100% solely dependent on an active income right now, that's like being on the Titanic with no lifeboats.
2020 was when you started this. We're 2 years from when they started this, and they're at $50,000 a month. Just wanted to make sure everybody heard that correct. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Naugle, and welcome back to the show. I've got one of my favorite people in the business with us in the infinite banking concept business. Their company is called Wealth Without Wall Street. What an awesome freaking name. So Joey's going to join us today, but we're going to talk about the infinite banking concept, but more specifically, we're going to talk about how Joey and his partners have built this awesome empire of something you all love, something you all need to know more about, called passive income. What's up, Joey? How are you, man? Thanks for joining me.
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. And you're right. I mean, here's the thing. The end of infinite banking is what you do with it, right? I mean, I can't tell you, Chris, when we first started in this business, 2009, we did a great job of capitalizing, right? Putting money into our control, which is what the infinite banking concept's all about. But we didn't, we got to a certain point, 3, 4, 5 years in, that we were like, now what? What do we do with it? Right. And so that took us on a journey to start figuring out what do we not know that's out there that we should be doing to create the end result, which is financial freedom.
I love it. And then one thing too, the more and more we dive deeper and deeper into the infinite banking concept, a concept pioneered by the late R. Nelson Nash. I always like to give him credit where credit's due, but I 100%. Almost feel like now it's gotten, it's not mainstream yet, but there's more and more people coming into it. And take that for what it's worth, good, bad, or indifferent. One problem that I've absolutely identified in this is everybody wants to parallel the infinite banking concept, which, just so everybody knows, is a process. We'll talk about that. They want to think that that process is a product. They want to put all the emphasis on the product, which is especially designed and engineered whole life. And they want to think that the whole life is the magic kingdom, the magic thing that makes all this work. The whole life is just the machine we run money through, folks. Like everything Joey's going to talk about with passive income has very little to do with the machine and everything to do with what happened after the money went in the machine and moved back out of it. So I want to be very clear for everybody listening to this. If you're looking into the infinite banking concept, whether it's with Wealth Without Wall Street or us at the Money Multiplier, please understand this whole thing, all this passive income is possible because of the process, not the product. The product just gives us a little spread that we could never get, gives us a tax-free environment for our money to live in and some other benefits. But really the machine, the whole life, just allows us to make money the first time when everybody else isn't making money. So Joey, let's dive a little bit deeper into it. Like, I came out to Birmingham. Gosh, I can't remember when that was. Before the pandemic. Everything after the pandemic sort of just got weird. But prior to that, exactly. And I loved the offices, and we were talking about it. It was maybe a year after I had kind of got into doing this. And, a lot's evolved since then. And one of the things I love that you said is you spent a lot of time in the early years capitalizing. Right. What we do is banking. So obviously, if you're going to build your own bank, you're going to have to capitalize your bank, which takes years sometimes, or time. And a lot of people don't want to put that time in, but you devoted that time and that energy and that effort to capitalize your bank. But you didn't stop there. Can you just tell that story a little bit?
Yeah. So I was actually in the mortgage business for 11 years. And during that time is when I got introduced to this concept by Russ, my now business partner. And it was just a perfect thing for me because I didn't ever love putting money away into 401ks and IRAs. I didn't understand them. I didn't understand how there was no control, right? There's no access. So I was just kind of blindly putting money away because I'd been told that's what you're supposed to do, right? That's the responsible thing to do when you're in a career. You just keep putting money away and you have time to let it grow and so on and so forth. But the issue is because I never had access to cash, no control over those things, I never saw opportunities. And I don't know if like people in your audience can relate, but you hear people on podcasts all the time talking about opportunities and things that they're taking advantage of. And we're going to share some of those today, like the passive income ideas that we're talking about. And they're going to say to themselves, just like I did, well, that's a great opportunity for someone else. That's a great opportunity for that person because I don't have access to that kind of money. But really what was happening is I was siphoning off opportunity dollars every single paycheck, right? My 401k, my IRA.
Oh, hey, Joey. Joey, hold on one sec. So editors, real quick, we're going to have to cut that part out where we lost the internet connection. So we're just going to kind of try to blend that. So Joey, it cut out where you started saying IRAs and 401ks. So, all right, on 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And the money was being siphoned out of those things, out of my dollars from my paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. It was constantly getting put away out of my control. And the problem was I didn't even know it was going on. It's a problem that most people don't even realize. But once I started implementing the infinite banking concept, I started putting large amounts of dollars. It was kind of like it woke me up. It was like, wait a minute, I need to be putting money into my control. Yeah, why wouldn't I be doing it? I started doing it. And then all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute. Now I need these dollars to go to work for me. What do I need them to do? And then I was like, I don't have very limited knowledge because I've never had to think about it before. You relate with that?
Absolutely relate with that. And, the audience should too, because that's how probably 99% of the people listening to this have operated before they have that awakening moment that you were just referring to.
Yeah. And what had happened was over the course of about 4 years of doing this, it was kind of like I got this aha moment, like more people need to know about this, right? I don't know, Chris, you and I have been a part of Nelson Nash Institute and you ever go to those events, you realize there's so few people in the country and internationally, our friends in Canada and everybody else that understand this concept at the level that we do.
100%.
And I was at that conference as an attendee, just kind of with Russ, that 4 years in. And I looked around and I was like, there's no wonder that more people don't know about this. There's just not enough people out there teaching it. And so I was sitting there making over $300,000 a year in the mortgage business. I was very comfortable. But I felt like the Lord was like, you need to be teaching people this. Like, this is your new calling, essentially. And so I went home to my wife, who was pregnant with our 4th daughter at the time. We now have 5 daughters, as we talked about pre-show. And I sat there and I said, hey, babe, I think I need to do this full time. I'm going to give up my career and go do this. And she was like, I absolutely think you should do it.
You never told me that. That's what your wife said. Yes. See, like Cash, my shop cat here, his name's Lazy Cash, just joined. He's like, really? So he's part of the show here. Like, wow. Most wives or significant others, I think, would have had a completely different answer. So just go a little bit into that. Why was she just like, I think you should do this? Why should, I think you should leave $300,000 in a comfortable living to just go do this thing that we really don't understand, but we think we understand.
Exactly. That's the best way to say it. And, at the time, I assumed what she meant. I assumed that she was just that much. She was like, she could tell how passionate I was, and she was just going to be behind me 100%. But what I found out later, 3 or 4 years in to this new business, I asked her one day, I said, what was going through your mind whenever I told you, hey, by the way, I'm just going to up and leave this career? And she said, you know what, Joey, I had been praying for a long time that God would take you out of that career because you were not present with me or our family. And it was bothering me so bad. I didn't know if our marriage was going to make it. So you could have told me you were going to go like pick up trash for a living. And I would have said you should do it. Wow. And so, Chris, I mean, the takeaway for me and those of you listening right now, are you in a high like profile job that is sucking your time away? Like 60 hours a week is a normal week for you? Like it's not normal, by the way. For you to be gone and unconnected, disconnected from your family and others around you because your work is so important, is so time consuming, that is the problem that we solve with financial freedom, right? And I'm grateful that I got to learn the lesson before my wife said, hey, by the way, sayonara, I'm out. Like I didn't sign up for you not to be present. And I was oblivious, Chris. I was oblivious. I thought I was crushing, you know? But man, she woke me up to that. And I'm grateful for it. And now I see what financial freedom and passive income can do to get you out of that grind, right? The 40 to 60 hour work week grind that we just put up with. And we think that that's the norm. It's just not.
Wow, that's important. Yeah. And I think, I've been there. I'm still there probably, like I work silly hours. I'm on the road traveling all the time. I mean, but my wife said, go. I think my wife's on the other side. She's like, when you're home, like it's cool, but I'm kind of sick of you. So go back on the road. I have those moments, life is, life. We're always talking about the balance between, work and personal life, but mine is just this crazy counterbalance, like I'll go in the mode where I'll like not travel for 2 months and I'll just be home, and hanging out, and every weekend I'm home. And then all of a sudden she's kind of like, all right, you gonna go to work? Like, when are you traveling next? And then there's this counterbalance where now I'm like on the road every single week traveling. And she's like, we never see you anymore. Vivi's asking, where you're at. And then there's this big swing. Welcome to my world. I haven't evolved to where you're at yet.
Well, and here's the thing. You're right. The people have different ways of just how their marriage works. I feel like most people, though, can relate with what I'm talking about. And they feel that strain of this need to kind of provide. And so they want to continue to like get on the treadmill and just run hard as they can. And then they also feel this pull from a relational aspect at home and with their kids. Like investing in those relationships is what we say we're working so hard for. And in the meantime, the relationships are crumbling. And what I would say is you got to give yourself options, right? Like it's fine. You got to put in the grind. I get it. But you need to be taking that active income and creating passive income. If not for the very option to be able to jump ship from the Titanic as it's drawing down. I'll give you this kind of word picture that I believe we're in right now. And Chris, I'm seeing a bunch of your stuff. I know that you're, aligned on this. Is I don't think people see where we're at in the market right now in the economy.
No, they don't. Which is frightening.
And I think it is the Titanic right now. It is that we are, and you could be, if you're 100% solely dependent on an active income right now, that's like being on the Titanic with no lifeboats. Right? So my question is, how many lifeboats do you need to create right now while the time is still available? And those lifeboats, in my mind, are passive income streams that you can start now and be building those things up so that you have a place to go, assuming the worst. And at the very least, you have an automatic exit if you want to. Right? If you start to really enjoy one of those passive income streams and you want to go full time into that versus what you're doing right now, you have those options. Without those options, you're just on the Titanic solo and hoping for someone else to come by with a lifeboat.
I love that visual. And folks, we just today put up a YouTube video that is the perfect video to explain what Joey just said. So go to my YouTube channel at the Chris Naugle and watch the newest YouTube video. It's a what now, what next? And it's all about what he just said. How many lifeboats do you have? And the picture in the video when the Titanic is sinking and the few are on the lifeboats, and what she says should drive that one home. So how did you made this switch from $300,000 mortgage brokerage job into the unknown, and your wife was fully on board. And then, you started capitalizing your banking system, which, just for the record, everybody, the banking system we're referring to is the machine, which is especially designed and engineered whole life. We're building a banking system, but you got to have money in the bank in order for it to work. So right. You did that. But when did you start realizing, hey, I need to start making this money go to work to create these passive incomes?
Yeah. Just to clarify one thing, the reason I felt the confidence to be able to leave that job and to jump into this full time was because I had been capitalizing for 4 years.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right? There was hundreds of thousands of dollars available for me to make that leap. So it was not nearly as difficult as people without capitalization. You don't have those options, right? It wouldn't even have really come to my mind. So I want to make that clear before I answer the question.
That's important. So you had met Russ before that point, and he had right. shown you the path. So you were already capitalized for a few years. All right. Very important stuff.
Exactly. So then fast forward, Russ and I are on our own working in this business, and we started the podcast in 2017. And the reason we did that was because we had a bunch of clients that we wanted to have regular conversation with. But, as time goes on, it's hard. It's difficult to have one-to-one conversations all the time. So we were like, let's start a podcast so we can start talking to our clients every week about what we're learning and how they can learn and getting questions from them and so on. And one of the resounding things that we kept hearing was, what do I do with my system? And we had the same questions. And so that drove us to start interviewing the best of the best people in passive income streams. What could we be doing with this cash? And for 3 years, we were interviewing, taking note, getting ideas. And one day, earlier than that, my daughter, who's now 7, she was about 2 at the time, 3 maybe. And she said to me on the way to school one day, we were taking her to this little preschool. She said, "Dad, you gonna pick me up today?" And I was like, "No, of course I'm not going to pick you up today. Like, you already know that answer because I'm never available to pick her up from school. In fact, it was rare for me to drop her off because I was already at work usually." I said, "No, your mom's going to pick you up." She said, "Why are you not going to pick me up?" I said, "Well, because I have to go to work." And she said, "Why do you have to go to work?" I said, "Because I gotta make money. I gotta pay for this car. I gotta pay for the house, the food that we eat." And she said, "Well, we already have a house. We already have a car." And, I could have just shrugged that off. Like, Chris, this is a 2 or 3 year old. She doesn't understand the most basic of things. Like, you don't just have a house, you pay it, you're paying it down, right? This is a process. But what stuck with me, the anchor that was in the back of my mind, was that when I answered my daughter, I said, I have to go to work. And it was at that time I said, as silly as it is, I'm never going to tell my daughter I have to go to work. Like, what is it going to do? What would I have to do in order to answer her differently the next time? And the resounding thought in my mind was, I have to start implementing passive income. I have the education, right? I've learned about these things from the best of the best. I have the capital. Now it's time to take action. And what Russ and I did in 2020 is we got really serious about it. And we said, we're going to focus 100% on building our own passive income streams. We're going to lead from the front, and we're going to start testing these ideas that we've been pitched over the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years on the podcast. And we're going to pick the best ones that we like the most, that line up with our investor DNA profile. And we're going to start implementing, and we're going to report it on our podcast.
I want to say
we're
something.
Going to report it to the world.
There's something really important you just said, and I need to just kind of extrapolate it. You notice how he said they got all these ideas, right? We all get a bunch of ideas. People every day in our ear. Oh, this is how you make money. This is how you become rich. This is a money making thing. So they had all these ideas, but what they did is they focused on the ones that they knew, liked, and understood. Folks, you have to understand, in building wealth, there are simple laws. Laws can't be broken, bent, changed, or manipulated at all. They're laws, just like gravity. Go to the top of your house, jump, and let me know how gravity worked when you couldn't change it. You can't change laws. The third law of wealth is protect your wealth. And it's very simple. And there's a lot of components, but invest in things that you know, like, and understand. If you're investing in things you don't understand, your money is going to flee you. And if you're in the fourth law of wealth counterparts that, it says, if you seek unrealistic returns, your money will flee you as well. So protect your wealth and don't seek unrealistic returns. Those two laws are very important. And he just said that. He probably didn't even know he spoke about a law, but he did. And folks, I want you to understand that. So when you're thinking about what path you're going to take, make sure it's the one you know, like, and understand, and make sure it's the one that isn't you getting outside of your comfort zone because you're seeking a return that is simply unrealistic. And folks, right now, most of the crap you see out there is unrealistic. Just being honest.
Yeah, no doubt at all. And I mentioned we have an investor DNA profile because there's so many people that don't know where to start. And they're like, I don't even know what would line up with me. All I know is to chase the return, right? That's the only way to do it. But if I were investing in things that didn't line up with who I am, the chance of me getting to financial freedom is at least delayed at the very least, if not, derailed. And so I would say, man, get your hands on something like that to help you get started if you're just getting started. But anyway, point being, man, July of 2020, we started reporting on our passive income, and it was not pretty. It was like $2,400 between Russ and I combined. Like we wanted to do this as a combined deal. But I will tell you, one of our business mentors and partners now, Sharon Srivatsa, he said it very well. He says, what you focus on grows. But what you focus on and report grows exponentially. And that's exactly what we've seen over these last 2 years as we went from that $2,400 a month passive income stream to last year, we averaged over $50,000 a month in passive income.
Now, let me
to
just...
the tune of, go ahead.
2020 was when you started this.
That's right.
$2,400 a month. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. We're now in 2022. 2 years. We're not even all the way through 2022. We're 2 years from when they started this, and they're at $50,000 a month. Just want to make sure everybody heard that correct.
And again, just as we talked about off camera, this is not our active income. In order for the things on this report to be on this report, we had the criteria. Either we did it one time and it continues to pay us, and so it could be on the report, or it is fully operationally handled by someone on our staff or on our team that does this full time. We can act as an advisory role, like where we would meet with them once a week or something like that, just to kind of hear how the business is going. But we are not in operations at all. And so anyways, that otherwise we would not be passive. It would be an active role.
Absolutely. So let's dive a little bit into these passive roles. So we now know you went from 2,500 or 2,400 actually to 50,000, but that's not just one thing. When people think passive, most people's mind goes to real estate. So
Exactly.
let's start with the elephant in the room, real estate. Like, what did you do in the beginning and what are you doing now? But that I know, because we talked offline, that's just one little piece of this
That's right.
passive income model. So let's just begin there.
Yeah. So just my background was I had bought a condo that I rented as a long-term rental since 2004, right? And it was barely making any money. It was like $100 a month cash flow, which once you consider any major appliance repair or, issue like that, that money's gone. So for all intents and purposes, this was just an albatross around my neck, right? I just couldn't sell it back in 2008 or whatever. And so I just held on to it. It just was, barely making any money. Now, fast forward to 2020, Russ and I had been considering the short-term rental space. Like, really loved the idea. We identified an operator, and he was ready to take this on full board. We gave him training. We gave him a salary, and we said, we want to build 15 units in the next 12 months. And he's like, okay, I'm up for it. And we're going to start with this one condo that Joey has owned for 15 years, basically. And so I'm grateful that I still had that condo, even though it was making me no money for a long period of time. In the very first month, we renovated it and we furnished it. We put it on Airbnb. The thing netted like $2,200 in cash flow. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we thought it would do, but it just had to have proof of concept, right? So once we had that first month under our belt, the second month was equally as good. We said, okay, we're going to expand. And so we immediately started to expand. And I think we ended up with like 12 units within 6 months. And so anyways, that was like one of our biggest first entrees just in the month of June. I haven't even reported this yet because we're going to do this next week. That business alone has 26 units now, and it netted us a little over 26,000 last month, just that one business.
And who's the operator of that?
So Clint Lovett he was a friend of ours who was in the remodeling space for a long time. And during COVID, his business took a major downturn. The bank seized his line of credit, and he was like out of a job.
Got it.
And he was looking for something new, and this was exciting to him. He's actually, I call him the unicorn because he has just crushed this business for us. And so anyways, just, it's more of a partnership now than it ever was before, but, he's an amazing operator.
And, are all these units, are they all every one of them funded with your banking systems, or are you using bank financing? Like, how is that capital structure looking?
Yeah. So what we determined is, in the market that we were in and continue to be, that we believe arbitrage is the better model right now, that we're going to leverage into buying units later when we see potentially the market soften. And so what our model is to go into rent an apartment, right? And the first one, of course, I own the condo, but the second ones and so on is we would go to a landlord, we rent the property from them, knowing that it's going to be a long-term lease. And then we tell them we're going to operate our short-term rental business in this unit. And that means we're going to clean it every week. We're going to consistently keep up the property. It's fully furnished, professionally furnished and designed. And we maintain the whole thing. And so then the difference that we make every month above what we pay in rent and expenses is what we get to keep. So we don't own the units. We own the furniture and the systems that run the whole thing. And we just make the cash flow above our expenses.
Yeah, I've heard about that a lot. Now, a lot of cities throughout the country are cracking down on that and not allowing you to do that. That's so in your area, I would assume it's still looked at as a good business model from I guess you would call it a code enforcement standpoint.
Yeah, I would just say that is one of the biggest threats to this business. is that you have to make sure that you go to areas that have already kind of established their stance on this. If it's still left up to in the air, which there's several places even around Birmingham here that are not fully like concrete, then you run the risk of them making it very short-lived business operation under the arbitrage model. I definitely would say that we created a course on it because we want to help people determine that without putting a bunch of money at risk.
That's important. Great. So, everybody, you got that, right? Like they're not owning these units outside of the one. They're just renting it, furnishing it, putting systems and processes in place, and then taking the arbitrage, which is, for those of you that don't know the word arbitrage, it's just spread. They pay X in rent, they charge, X in Airbnb rental income, and the spread is what they get to keep. So pretty simple model, nothing complicated about that outside of understanding the rules, understanding, different restrictions in certain areas. If you're in California, good luck. I know California doesn't want anyone to do anything. So let's just put that right out there. If you live in California, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. But other parts of the country, you're in good shape. All right, perfect. So that's the rental model, or at least one of them. What would be next? What's the second leg of your passive income model?
Man, I'm sorry. My internet just flickered again. I'm gonna have to get somebody out here, but
hang on one second.
You said California.
So, hold on. Editors, make sure you cut that part out too. So in the email I sent you, I told you there's 2 parts you need to cut out. Make sure you splice that out so it goes seamless. Okay, go ahead. Well,
you were saying California doesn't want anything or whatever, and then that's where I lost you. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's where we lost it. I was just messing around about California because I'm just so down on California right now.
I'm with you. What do you want me to talk about next?
So here, we'll do it on 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So in your passive income model, what would be the second leg? So we talked about the arbitrage, and we talked about how you're doing that with rentals. But what other businesses do you have that are truly passive, that don't take time out of your family life and your business life?
The one I'm probably most excited about is our land flipping business. We interviewed the land geek, Mark Podolsky. I don't know if you've had him on the show, but he's an amazing guy. And he teaches people how to buy raw land at 25 cents on the dollar and turn around and sell it on the retail market for payments, terms, whereas you are becoming the bank. Obviously, I love the strategy, right? Owner financing the land back to people, making it affordable. And just to give you kind of an example, let's say you could buy a piece of property for $1,000. It's worth $4,000 to $5,000, and you go and sell it for $5,000, but you make it not $5,000 out of pocket. It's $500 down and $200 a month for however many months that is. I can't do the math really quickly in my head. And so you do that over and over and over again to where you're constantly building a note income. Sometimes it's 6, 7, 8 years that people are paying you for that one transaction. Well, we love the idea of this, but we knew that we weren't the people to operate that business. The time and energy it would take to do that is great, but we just didn't have it. And so we went to Mark and we said, hey, Mark, we want to make this passive. How can we make this passive? And so what we did is we partnered with his team.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I've had him on my podcast as well. And I never thought to even ask him that. Matter of fact, we started a land flipping business. We didn't do it with Mark. We went through a different program, but we started that. And, the guy that I was doing it with just lost focus because we were just having a hard time selling some of the properties. But I can't believe all right, perfect. This is fantastic.
Yeah. And so he worked it out with us and now has been able to implement it for a lot of our passive income mastermind members. That now that business, we've probably invested a little over $250,000 in 2 years. And in terms of our cost of acquiring the land, right? And that amount of investment, besides there's a startup fee that he charges, but I'm just saying just the amount that we put into the cash flowing asset has produced over $22,000 a month at this point.
And he does everything. Growing.
Their team does the entire acquisition, marketing, sale, management of land notes, accounting. Any defaults, they take the land back and they resell it. It is completely hands off to the point where I just get a report every month and we reinvest the cash because we don't need the cash. So it just keeps growing off of the initial investment. And to me, it's my favorite thing because dirt is not going anywhere. People still want to own dirt and there's no hassle. If someone quits paying, there's no foreclosure process. It's simply, hey, thanks for playing. And you've defaulted on this note. So we're going to go and resell it at a lower basis point than what we started.
No tenants, no toilets, no termites.
Exactly.
Sign me up, man. The only problem you got is the oddball snake, rabbit, and maybe a couple deer on there. Those are your tenants, folks. So
that's right. Exactly.
Awesome. I love this model. And just like you, I remember sitting there in your office on your podcast, and it must have been right after you started. Because I remember you guys were just learning all that fancy equipment on the desk there. And I can't remember if I think I had my podcast going then too. So we were kind of earlier adopters on the podcast side, but we've had so many guests. The cool part is you've actually taken your guests and then like gone a step further and taken action on them, where what we've done is we've done more the affiliate role, brought our guests that we really liked onto our different trainings and our different shows that we do, and then had them just pay affiliates on it. But I kind of like your model better because your model doesn't require transactions where mine requires another event to make more money.
Well,
who's the smartest guy in the room now? Not me.
Well, our thing was listen, if we're going to talk about passive income, shouldn't we be seeing if this is just a bunch of bull, right? Like, do people just come on to shows and talk a big game and then nothing really happens? Like the results are just like 1 in a million kind of things? Or can it be duplicatable? And that was our thing, is like, we wanted to authentically lead from the front and say, this is possible. This is how you do it. It's not just a person, talking about their strategy. It's now us backing it up and saying, we've gotten here and so can you. Like, if two country bumpkin, morons from Alabama can do this, who else can have financial freedom, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So now we've covered the arbitrage with the rentals. We've covered land flipping. Both are truly passive because you have operators in place, one of which is one of the guys that's teaching the majority of the people out there how to do land flipping. And I don't think that's where we stop, is it?
No, we actually started mining Ethereum, crypto, in 2018. This was one of the things we did before. And so we bought these computers. We knew the people who operated the business. And so we bought them from them, not really understanding what we were doing. I'll go ahead and tell you. But we knew the people at the head of it. And what ended up happening is we thought of it wrong. We thought of crypto mining as a piece of real estate. So think about, hey, I could buy a rental property and I could have, $300 a month net cash flow after all said and done. But then I have the possibility of dealing with managing that, with tenants, with termites, all those things that you mentioned. But we thought, well, mining crypto would be better because all it is a computer. And it just mines itself and it yields more than what it costs to maintain until the summer of 2018. At that point, the cost to maintain the power and the cost of the computer, like maintenance every month, exceeded how much it was producing. And Russ and I were like, we are morons. We have bought into this and we are paying more than we are actually getting in Ethereum. But you know what I was thinking is, I don't know. I was kind of applying the whole dollar cost averaging mindset, which I don't really agree with in the market. But in this case, I said, well, if I keep mining this, eventually, if the value comes back up, I'll be sitting on a lot of cash. And it's exactly what happened in 2020. Ethereum went through the roof, right?
Big time went through the roof.
Yeah. And so we were able to liquidate all the Ethereum that we produced and pay ourselves back for the entire cost of the machines and all the maintenance. And so then I was like, oh, well, it's producing more every month than what we ever invested. The problem became that we were thinking wrong about crypto. Crypto is not about appreciation. Crypto is about a currency, a difference, a place to park cash that actually is going up in value versus our US dollar that is getting crushed right
Big
now.
Time. Yeah. Did you see that the US dollar and the euro are now, well, they were a couple of days ago at par? Like
yes,
that hasn't happened in over 20 years. And folks, most people don't even understand what that means. It's a little frightening. That's all I'm going to say. Leave it right there.
You add to that these reports of inflation that are 9.1% in June, which is not accurate. It's definitely going to be worse than that. And oh my gosh, like we're on a scene.
You're cutting out again. Okay, editors. So that's going to be the third time we need to splice. God, where did you leave off?
Well, I remember you were talking about the US dollar and the euro. And then at that point, it was almost like I lost it after that. That's what I felt like.
Yeah, you started to say on or something like that. So, all right, we'll do it. We'll just pick up wherever you think on 3. So 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the dollars are getting just crushed right now. Inflation was reported as 9.1 in June, 9.1, which is not accurate. It's way worse. And so the bottom line is someone woke us up to this and said, cryptocurrency is not volatile. The US dollar is volatile. And they started breaking down the aspects of crypto that make it a good place to store value. And so from that point on, we had given up all that Ethereum that we had mined for dollars to get our investment back. And we should have just kept it. Mm-hmm. And at this point, now that's what we do. When we mine it, we keep those those crypto. Sometimes I'll transfer it from Ethereum to Bitcoin. But either way, I'm storing value there as a place, it's like a digital gold, if you will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that's what we're doing now.
And that's a good use. And, I know a lot of people have just lost their ass in crypto, with the recent pullback. But I mean, you have to understand that, the crypto is definitely correlated to the stock market. So the stock market's going down, crypto is also going down, but it doesn't mean that it's going to go to zero. It just simply means it's correlated because of investor sentiment. So I think that's a great way to look at crypto, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum. I trade them as well. I trade them more like I did, on the Wall Street days where I buy support and resistance levels. But lately, all I'm doing is just having a field day buying this drop. Like I just keep dollar cost averaging in every week. And then when we hit these big drops, I just all in. And, when it comes back up, I just keep leveraging that position because we all know that eventually it's going to come back. I look at it much like the 2000s, when we had all the .com crash happening,
Mm-hmm.
These are the Bitcoin and the Ethereum outside of the whole universe of crypto. Those are the two that will make it through, and probably several others, but a lot of them will fall because of people just seeking unrealistic returns and betting on a losing horse that never was going to be a winner anyway. But if you just look at it as a store of value, it's a great place. It's a great place to store value. But if you look at it as I'm going to get rich next week, well, your money's going to flee you. I don't know how many times I need to keep repeating that these are laws of wealth, not speculations of how to get wealthy.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So you're mining crypto, well, more so Ethereum, but then you're also converting some to Bitcoin as a store of wealth. You're doing land flipping, but you're doing nothing. You just struck a deal with the guy who's teaching everybody else, and that's panning out pretty well. You've got rental income going on, but you technically own nothing, but you kind of control everything. Heard that one before, and you're making a nice little arbitrage on that. What else you got in your basket of passive income?
Well, I don't know how much time you have, but
we're probably getting to the end, but let's hit at least one more. And then let's tell some people how they can learn how to create these kind of passive incomes as well. Because, at this point, everybody's like, holy crap, like, how do I do this? Do I need to be wealthy? Do I need to have resources? Folks, I'll give you this. It's not about your actual resources. It's about how resourceful you can be. Joey, myself, Russ, none of us started where we're at today. We started at the bottom and we capitalized up. It's taken years. Right. But what is a couple of years in the grand scheme of going from $2,400 to $50,000? Is that worth 2 years of your life? Well, I'll let you guys be the judge of that.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you real quickly, we have a drop shipping business, an e-commerce brand of candles, stack candles. We actually have a friend of ours who runs 100%. We have ATMs. We bought into a syndication for ATMs. And I have an RV that I bought that now is managed on Outdoorsy and those type of things where it gets rented every month. And those along with our information business, that kind of rounds out the rest of our report every single month.
And for the most part, your involvement in all of these is you've put capital into these, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one. And how about the systems and processes? Did you build any of that, or is that stuff that you acquired through the people that you've partnered with?
So the short-term rental business, I mentioned that we bought the coaching, but had the operator go through it and he built the systems. Russ and I are not naturally systematic, operationally minded people. And so that would be one of those deal killers for us. If it required us to do all the building, it would be a train wreck. So we want to borrow someone else's model, or we can tweak it, right? We can tweak it, but we're not going to start from scratch typically. So for instance, the RV rental that I do, I didn't go and try to do that myself. I went to an existing RV rental company and said, hey, I bought an RV. Would you rent it? And they said yes. And we worked out a split on the revenue. The ATMs is just an automatic thing. It's not something that we had to build. And the e-commerce brands that we've invested in have been with operators who already do that. So I think that's a theme for us is if we don't have an operator who can be behind those systems and even build them, then we're not going to be investing in it.
So you're investing in people, which is always the best bet.
Exactly.
It's always been what the leaders and the wealthiest families out there, they invest in people. They find people that have skill sets that they don't possess. Look at Henry Ford. I mean, they said he had an education of a fifth grader. But what that man was smart enough to do is to get himself a row of buttons on his desk with a person that he invested in on each one of those buttons that knew something he didn't do, and he considered an expert. So that's what you guys did. You guys got yourself a row of buttons. Today, those row of buttons are called a cell phone, but same idea.
Yeah.
So Russ, there's so much here to unpack, and we could do probably a whole nother hour on this podcast, but where would people learn how to do some of these? Maybe not all. I mean, they got to find the one they know, like, and understand. But I guarantee you, when you said that during the pandemic, a whole bunch of people bought campers and RVs, and they're just sitting in the driveway now because they don't want to drive them because of fuel prices. So where can they learn how to do this stuff? Did you create any trainings around any of this stuff?
We have a lot of different trainings available in our community. And I would just say if people are wanting to learn more, we have a process, right? We call it the GPS, and it's the goal. You have to create a goal. You have to have a plan, and then you have to have the support to go with it. And so when people engage with us, they go through that. They build their own goal through a course we call the Passport Challenge. And that's where they get a vision of what they're really trying to accomplish. Because without the vision, you don't know how to really set up the plan. And then in the plan, they actually learn what sort of investor they are through that investor DNA profile I mentioned. And one of our coaches will sit with them and actually show them which of these common like passive income streams might line up best with who they are. And that gives them the direction to start building towards that. And then the support comes in the way of our masterminds, right? We have masterminds within our company, both the inner circle and the passive income mastermind, that help people be supported along the way and get the direction so that they can really shortchange the time it takes you to do this. We put in how many years? 10 years to get to this point. What if you could do that in 2, right? That's the goal of borrowing the collective mastermind and saying, how can I get there faster? So if you want to, you can go to wealth.wallstreet.com/GPS, and you can get started on, like I said, the most basic of courses is free, the Passport Challenge. And then from there, if you want to engage further, you can kind of go through the whole process.
I love that. Folks, we'll put that in the description. It's very simple, Wealth Without Wall Street, and then .com/GPS. So not a hard one to remember, but just in case you need that guidance, it'll be in the description for you to click. But I urge you guys to go to the website. It's full of all sorts of cool information, and you guys can learn and start building your passive income. And don't take 10 years to do it. Do it in 2, but get the people that have done it, that have, mowed the path for you. You don't have to trek through the mud, muck, and brush. You can just ride on the path they already created. So Joey, this has been great. It's really great to catch up with you and hear where you guys are going. And the next time we do this, it'll be interesting to hear where you've gone from there. We'll go from 50 to, what is the next milestone? It's going to be interesting to hear, but I appreciate your time and I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Dude, it's always a pleasure. And let's double it next time. When I get to 100,000, I'll come back.
All right. That sounds like a plan. We'll hold you to that. So when you're at 100, just think you're going to be back on the show.
All right, bro. That sounds good.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for watching this episode. We'll catch you in the next one. Make sure you go to chrisnaugle.com, grab the free books, sign up for the wealth webinar. They're free. Yeah. Did I repeat they're free? Yeah. Grab those and we'll see you all on the next episode. Till then.